The alarms blared across the massive space station. Red lights flashed in every corridor as officers of a dozen different species rushed to their stations. In the center of the Galactic Council chamber, the emergency holographic display showed something that should not exist. "What do you mean you don't know what it is?" Counselor Drab's voice boomed across the chamber. His forearms gestured wildly at the display. The blue-skinned official's eyes narrowed to thin slits as he stared at the trembling communications officer. "The signals make no sense, Counselor," replied Officer Meek, her feathers flattening against her head in fear. "The object is moving at speeds our sensors can barely track. It matches no known design in our database." Commander Trell burst into the chamber, his scales glistening with stress sweat under the emergency lights. "The outer defense post has confirmed. One ship, unknown origin, approaching from the uncharted sectors." The room fell silent. The uncharted sectors. No intelligent life had ever been found there. The Council had checked centuries ago and found only primitive worlds not worth the effort of contact. "Impossible," whispered Counselor Jix, the oldest member present. His long whiskers twitched nervously. "Nothing lives out there that could build ships." The main screen flickered as a real-time feed connected. The face that appeared belonged to Admiral Tass, commander of the border fleet. His normally gray skin had paled to almost white. "Council members, the object has slowed. It's definitely a ship, and it's responding to our signals by copying them back to us. I think it's trying to understand our communications." Drav slammed his fist down. "Is it the destroyers? The ancient texts speak of beings who would come from the empty spaces between stars." Panic rippled through the chamber. The destroyers were merely legends, stories told to frighten young ones. Beings so powerful they had supposedly disappeared into the void only to return someday and reclaim the galaxy. "Prepare all defenses," ordered Drav. "Alert every world in 3 systems to begin emergency protocols. No chances." In the military control center below the council chamber, ships from 32 species were being coordinated into defensive formations. Admiral Sen, a veteran of border conflicts, watched the tactical display with growing unease. "The vessel is still approaching, but more slowly now," reported his second-in-command. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies, but the signals are unlike anything in our records." "Show me," Sen demanded. The screen filled with strange patterns and sequences. The ship's computer attempted to analyze them, but failed repeatedly. "It could be a weapon," suggested a nervous analyst. "Maybe they're trying to hack our systems." Sen shook his head. "No, this looks like language. They're trying to talk to us. Or trick us," countered his second. "The vessel's energy readings are off the charts. Whatever powers it could destroy a small moon." News spread quickly through the station and across nearby worlds. Civilians began packing emergency shelters. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times had arrived. Military families said tearful goodbyes as ships were deployed to the defensive line. In a quiet corner of the command center, language specialist Trill worked frantically. "There's a pattern here," she muttered to herself. "It's repeating key sequences. Adapting. Learning." But no one was listening. The council had already decided. This unknown ship represented the greatest threat they had ever faced. "All ships in position," reported Admiral Xen. "The alien vessel will reach our defensive line in 10 standard units." Counselor Drav looked grim. "Prepare to fire warning shots. If they continue advancing, destroy them." In the vastness of space, the lonely ship from Earth continued its approach, broadcasting messages of peace to a galaxy it had never known humans, and was preparing to ensure they never would. Captain Jack Riley rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the main view screen of the UES Pathfinder. Stars streaked by as the ship traveled through space, carrying Earth's hope for peaceful first contact with whoever might be out there. "Captain, DNA is picking up some unusual energy readings ahead," said Lieutenant Tom Wilson from the science station. His fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "Dana, The ship's artificial intelligence spoke in a calm female voice. Energy patterns suggest multiple power sources. They appear to be artificial in nature, Captain. Riley straightened in his command chair. After 6 months in deep space, they might have finally found something. Can you determine if they're ships or stations? Unknown at this time, Dana replied. But the configuration suggests organized placement. These are not natural phenomena. Pete Thompson, the communications officer, suddenly jerked upright. Captain, I'm receiving transmissions. Multiple signals, definitely artificial. His face showed both excitement and confusion. They're not in any language I recognize, but the patterns are too regular to be random. The bridge crew fell silent. This was it, humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. Riley felt a weight settle on his shoulders. Everything they did now would shape Earth's relationship with the stars. Put it on speaker, Riley ordered. Strange sounds filled the bridge, clicks, whistles, and electronic tones that made no sense to human ears. But something about them conveyed urgency. Dana, begin analysis and attempt translation, Riley said. Pete, broadcast our standard greeting package on all frequencies. Aye, Captain. The greeting package had been carefully designed by Earth's best linguists, mathematicians, and diplomats. It contained basic mathematical sequences, simple imagery of humans and the solar system, and peaceful messages in multiple Earth languages. Sir, said Navigator Emma Jones, her voice suddenly tense, long-range scanners are picking up movement. Multiple objects changing position ahead of us. Show me, Riley ordered. The view screen shifted to show dots of light moving into formation. Not random movement, deliberate, coordinated positioning. They're forming a blockade, said Security Chief Mike Green. His hand instinctively moved to rest near his sidearm. Classic defensive formation. Riley frowned. Why would they? Captain. Thompson interrupted. The transmissions have changed. They're repeating the same sequence over and over. Dana says it might be some kind of warning. Riley made a quick decision. Slow to sublight speed. Let's not appear threatening. The Pathfinder dropped out of faster-than-light travel, stars shifting from streaks to pinpoints on the view screen. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp. Hundreds of ships of various sizes and designs hung in space before them, arranged in tight battle formation. Their strange and beautiful shapes spoke of civilizations far different from Earth's, but their positioning was unmistakable to any military mind. They think we're hostile, Riley said quietly. Sir, Dana has partially decoded some transmissions, Thompson reported. There's a word that keeps repeating. The closest translation might be destroyer or endbringer. Riley's stomach sank. They're afraid of us. Captain, energy readings spiking across multiple vessels, Wilson called out. They might be powering weapons. Riley stood up. All stop. Power down non-essential systems. Make us look as non-threatening as possible. He turned to Thompson. Broadcast on all frequencies. Continuous loop. We come in peace. We mean no harm. We seek friendship. Broadcasting now, sir. The crew watched in tense silence as the alien fleet held position. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then Wilson called out, Sir, energy surge from the lead ships. Bright beams of light erupted from several alien vessels, streaking toward the Pathfinder. The human crew braced for impact. The ship's shields flared briefly as they absorbed the energy with minimal effort. Riley looked at the damage report in disbelief. That was their attack. Our shields barely noticed it. Wilson looked up from his station, face pale. Sir, I think we just accidentally terrified them even more. Panic erupted across the Galactic Council's command center. The alien ship had absorbed their strongest weapons without showing any signs of damage. Admiral Xen stared at the redouts in disbelief while officers around him frantically called for backup. Impossible. Those were our heaviest energy cannons, shouted the weapons officer, his tentacles writhing in distress. Nothing can withstand that kind of firepower. Counselor Drav paced nervously, all four of his arms clasped behind his back. What are they waiting for? Why don't they strike back? On the main screen, the human vessel simply hung in space. It had powered down several systems after the attack, but its shields remained active. The strange transmissions continued broadcasting on all frequencies. They're toying with us, hissed Admiral Xen, showing us they're immune to our weapons before they destroy us all. Language specialist Trill rushed into the command center, waving a datapad excitedly. I've made progress with their transmissions. They keep repeating patterns that might indicate peaceful intent. Xen snorted. Peaceful. They withstood our strongest attack like it was nothing. Maybe that's why they're not attacking back, Trill suggested. Maybe they really do come in peace. Or maybe they're waiting for reinforcements, countered the strategic officer. We should evacuate the council station immediately. Across the nearby star systems, panic had already taken hold. The news that the alien vessel had survived a direct hit from the defense fleet's weapons spread quickly. Civilians rushed to shelters, while military families prepared for the worst. The unknown ship is maintaining position, reported a sensor operator. No signs of weapons charging, but their shield technology is like nothing we've ever seen. Counselor Drav moved to the communications station. Has there been any progress decoding their language? Some, replied the officer. Their transmissions contain repeating mathematical sequences, images of what might be their species, and what looks like star charts. Our computers are working on it. Mathematical sequences. Trill perked up. That's a universal language. Show me. On the screen appeared simple equations, then diagrams of basic atomic structures, followed by images of bipedal creatures standing beside what appeared to be a star with 8 planets. They're trying to introduce themselves, Trill said excitedly. This isn't an attack. It's a greeting. Admiral Xen remained skeptical. A greeting that comes in a warship that can withstand our strongest weapons. Sir, interrupted a communications officer, we're receiving new transmissions from the alien vessel. They've adapted their message. It contains some of our own language patterns now. Put it on the speakers, ordered Drav. A strange voice filled the command center, speaking broken phrases in the Council's common trade language. No fight. No harm. We, friends. Talk. Possible. Silence fell across the room. The aliens had somehow begun to decode their language in a matter of hours, a process that should have taken months or years. They learned too fast, whispered an officer. How is this possible? Counselor Jix, who had remained quiet until now, finally spoke. Perhaps we should consider responding. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already. Unless this is some kind of psychological warfare, Admiral Xen argued. Make us think they're friendly, then strike when our guard is down. While the council debated, the human ship took action. A small section of the vessel detached. A shuttlecraft moving slowly toward the council's fleet. They're launching something, shouted the sensor operator. Weapons ready, ordered Xen. Wait, Trill called out. It's small, minimally powered. It could be an envoy. The new transmission from the human ship was clearer now. We send small ship. 3 people only. Talk face to face. Please no shoot. We come friend. Counselor Drav looked at Admiral Xen, then at the other council members present. Do we risk it? Do we allow them to approach? If they wanted war, Jix said slowly, why would they send 3 individuals in an unarmed shuttle? After tense deliberation, Drav nodded. Allow the shuttle to approach the neutral station, but triple the security forces. If this is a trick, they won't leave that station alive. As the human shuttle approached, defense ships surrounded it from all sides, weapons locked and ready to fire at the slightest provocation. Captain Riley sat in the shuttle alongside Lieutenant Anna Miller and Science Officer Mark Davis. All 3 wore the specially designed universal greeting uniforms, simple white clothes with Earth's symbol, a blue and green circle on the chest. Remember, Riley told his companions, no sudden movements. Based on their communications, these beings seem extremely nervous around us. Miller nodded, clutching her translator device. Dana has made good progress with their language. I should be able to communicate basic concepts, at least. The shuttle approached a large ring-shaped station. Several alien ships escorted them, weapons visibly aimed at their small craft. "Friendly bunch," muttered Davis, looking out the viewport. "Hard to believe our shields scared them that much." "They hit us with everything they had," Riley replied. "And to them, it looked like we just ignored it. Put yourself in their place. How would Earth react to that kind of power difference?" The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. Through the viewport, they could see dozens of armed guards waiting in the docking bay. The aliens came in various shapes and sizes, some with multiple limbs, others with scales or feathers, but all holding weapons pointed at the shuttle door. "Here goes nothing," Riley said, standing up. "Follow my lead." The shuttle door opened slowly. Captain Riley stepped out first, hands raised in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Miller and Davis followed, mimicking his posture. The aliens flinched visibly as the humans emerged. Some of the guards stepped back, their weapons trembling. Riley could see fear in their alien features. "We come in peace," Riley said clearly, knowing the aliens wouldn't understand his words, but might respond to his calm tone. "We seek friendship." Miller activated her translator device, which began to speak in crude approximations of the Council's language. "No harm. Want talk. Friends possible." One alien stepped forward, clearly a leader of some kind. This being had blue skin and 4 arms, each holding a different device. When it spoke, the translator picked up fragments. "Why come? What want? How ship strong?" Miller worked with her device, trying to formulate a response. "We explore, find new friends, share knowledge." The blue alien conferred with others nearby, then gestured for the humans to follow. Guards surrounded them as they walked through corridors filled with more aliens who pressed against walls to keep distance from the humans. They entered a large chamber where several important-looking aliens sat at a crescent-shaped table. The atmosphere was tense, with security personnel lining the walls. "Central meeting place," Miller whispered to Riley. "These must be their leaders." Riley stepped forward, but stopped when several guards raised their weapons nervously. He remained still, waiting. An elderly-looking alien with long whiskers spoke first. The translator struggled but managed. "Why ship not damaged by weapons?" Riley looked at Miller, who nodded and carefully translated his response. "Ship has protection, not for attack. For safety only." The blue 4-armed alien spoke next. "Why come to our space? What you want?" Riley smiled gently. "To meet others, to learn, to share, to make peace." The aliens conferred among themselves, their body language suggesting disbelief and suspicion. Davis leaned closer to Riley. "Captain, they're still terrified of us. Maybe we should show some vulnerability." Riley nodded slightly. He slowly removed his communicator and placed it on the floor, then stepped away from it. After a moment, Miller and Davis did the same with small pieces of their equipment. This gesture caused visible surprise among the aliens. The elderly one spoke again. "Why give technology? Show trust." Miller translated Riley's response. "We not hide. We open." A new alien entered, one with feathered skin who had been working on translations. It approached its leaders and spoke rapidly, gesturing to a datapad. The 4-armed leader turned back to the humans. The translator picked up. "You learn our words very fast." "How?" Miller pointed to her translator device and tried to explain. "Machine helps, finds patterns, makes connections." This explanation seemed to both impress and further alarm the alien council. They whispered among themselves before the elderly leader spoke again. "We will talk, but no tricks. Many weapons still point at your big ship." Riley nodded and responded simply. "We understand." Thank you for talking. First step to friendship. As the formal discussion began, the humans could feel the tension in the room slowly, very slowly, beginning to ease. But a single wrong move could still end everything. 3 hours into the talks, the atmosphere in the council chamber had shifted. The translator devices worked better now, and both sides shared basic information about their species. Captain Riley sat across from Counselor Drav, with Miller and Davis beside him. The guards remained, but they lowered their weapons. So your people evolved from? Drav struggled with the concept. Creatures that chased their food until it became too tired to run. Riley nodded. Yes, we call it persistence hunting. Early humans could run for many hours without stopping. The council members exchanged alarmed glances. Chix, the elderly counselor, leaned forward. All council species evolved as prey animals. We survive by hiding, running, or living in large groups. The concept of chasing prey is, he paused, disturbing to us. Miller tapped notes into her datapad. This explains a lot about their reaction to us, she whispered to Riley. Davis spoke up, addressing the aliens. May I ask what confused you most about our signals? Trill, the feathered language specialist, answered. Your messages contained concepts we couldn't understand. Exploration for its own sake. Curiosity without practical purpose. These ideas don't exist in council languages. You travel through space, just to see what's there. Asked Drav, his forearms gesturing in confusion. Yes, Riley replied simply. We want to learn, to discover, to understand the universe. Even if it's dangerous, asked another counselor. Especially then, Davis said, smiling. This comment caused several aliens to back away slightly. Miller tried to explain. Humans are naturally curious. We climb mountains just because they exist. We dive into deep oceans to see what lives there. We sent robots to other planets before we even went ourselves. The aliens discussed this among themselves in their own languages. Trill turned back to the humans. Your species is strange to us. You seek out the unknown instead of fearing it. Riley decided to shift the topic. Tell us about the council. How many species are members? 32 fully recognized species, answered Jix proudly. We have maintained peace for over 700 of your years. That's impressive, Riley said sincerely. Earth only achieved global unity 50 years ago. This comment caused visible shock among the council members. You fought among yourselves? Drav asked, horrified. Your own species. Riley nodded grimly. For most of our history, but we learned, grew, changed. Now we work together. The council members whispered urgently to each other. Finally, Jix spoke. You are saying that your species, which evolved as predators and fought wars against itself, now travels through space with technology that makes your ships impervious to our weapons. Put that way, Riley understood their fear. We come in peace, he repeated firmly. Earth has no interest in conquest or conflict. An awkward silence fell over the room. Davis, trying to lighten the mood, stood up to stretch. Several guards instantly raised their weapons. Davis froze, then slowly sat back down. Sorry, he said. Humans need to move occasionally. Sitting too long is uncomfortable for us. Curious, Drav asked. How long can humans stand without resting? Hours, Davis replied. Our bodies are built for endurance. To demonstrate, Davis asked permission to do a simple exercise. When granted, he dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups. The aliens watched in amazement as he completed 30 rapid push-ups without strain. Incredible physical strength, murmured Trill, making notes. And you say this is average for your species? Pretty average, Davis confirmed, returning to his seat. Some humans are much stronger. The council seemed both fascinated and terrified by this demonstration. Chix turned to Riley. Captain, we begin to understand why your arrival caused such alarm. You are unlike any species we have encountered. Riley nodded thoughtfully. And you are unlike what we expected to find. This is why contact between different worlds is so important. We have much to learn from each other. The tension in the room had transformed into cautious curiosity. The humans and aliens continued sharing information about their biologies, societies, and technologies. Slowly, fear gave way to wonder as two fundamentally different evolutionary paths found common ground. But as the talks progressed, no one noticed the urgent message flashing on the command center's emergency channel, a warning from the outer sensor network that something massive had just entered the system. A junior officer burst into the council chamber, his scales pale with fear. He rushed to Admiral Xen and whispered urgently in his ear. The Admiral's eyes widened in horror. "Counselors," Xen announced, interrupting the diplomatic talks. "The harvesters have returned. They've been detected at the edge of the system." The room erupted in panic. Council members jumped from their seats, shouting orders and questions. The guards looked at each other in terror, their weapons forgotten. "Harvesters?" Riley asked, looking to Miller for translation help. "What are harvesters?" Jix turned to the humans, his whiskers trembling. "Machine beings. They come every 100 cycles to take resources, including living beings. They farm intelligent life," Drav added grimly. "They weren't due for another 30 cycles. Your arrival must have attracted their attention." Admiral Xen activated a holographic display showing a massive fleet of angular, metallic ships advancing toward the council station. "They've already disabled 2 outposts. Evacuation protocols are being initiated." "You're running?" Davis asked, confused. "You're not going to fight?" The alien stared at him in disbelief. Sen spoke slowly, as if explaining to a child. "No one fights the harvesters. We hide. We sacrifice outer colonies. We survive until they leave." Riley exchanged looks with his crew members. "How many lives will be lost?" "Thousands, perhaps millions," replied Drav. "But our core worlds will survive. This is how it has always been." Riley stood up. "Contact our ship. We need to warn Earth and request assistance." The aliens watched as Miller used her translator to relay a message to the Pathfinder. Minutes later, the response came. "Captain," Miller reported, "Dana has analyzed the harvester ships. Their technology is advanced, but not beyond our understanding. The Pathfinder can engage while we wait for reinforcements." "1 ship against a fleet?" Admiral Xen scoffed. "Even your vessel cannot withstand such numbers." "We don't need to win," Riley explained. "We just need to hold them off until help arrives." Drav looked skeptical. "And will your people send help? For strangers they've never met?" Riley nodded without hesitation. "Yes, that's what humans do." The council members conferred rapidly among themselves. Finally, Jix addressed the humans. "Captain Riley, we appreciate your offer, but this is not your fight. These beings have harvested our worlds for millennia. We have learned to survive by hiding, not fighting." "With respect," Riley replied, "that's why they keep coming back. They know there's no resistance." An alarm blared throughout the station. A sensor officer's voice came over the communication system. "Harvester scout ships have breached the outer defensive line. All personnel, proceed to emergency shelters." Admiral Xen turned to his officers. "Begin station evacuation. Priority ships for council members and essential personnel." Riley's communicator beeped. He listened to the message from his ship, then looked at the council. The Pathfinder has analyzed the harvester communication patterns. They appear to use a centralized command structure. If we can disrupt their control ship, the rest might become disorganized. "How could you possibly know that already?" asked Trill, amazed. "Our AI is very good at pattern recognition," Davis explained. "And we've encountered similar systems before." Admiral Xen looked doubtful but desperate. "What do you propose?" "A joint operation," Riley said. "Your knowledge of the harvesters combined with our technology. We can buy time while Earth sends reinforcements." "How long until your help arrives?" asked Drav. Miller checked her device. Our nearest fleet could be here in 16 hours if they push their engines to maximum. 16 hours. Sen shook his head. The harvesters will have taken half the system by then. Then we make those 16 hours count, Riley insisted. Your people know their patterns. Help us understand them, and we'll help you fight them. A massive explosion shook the station. Emergency lights flashed as the power fluctuated. We don't have time to debate, Riley urged. Let us help you. Counselor Jix looked at his colleagues, then back at the humans. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded. Very well, Captain. For the first time in our history, we will stand and fight alongside you. Admiral Xen moved to a tactical display. I never thought I would say this, but what's your battle plan, human? The space around the Council station blazed with weapons fire. The Pathfinder, alongside the remaining Council defense ships, engaged the Harvester fleet in a desperate holding action. Captain Riley stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, Earth's most powerful battleship, which had arrived at the head of a human battle group just hours earlier. Status report, Admiral James Torres demanded, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays. The Harvester main fleet is pushing toward the inhabited planets, reported the sensor officer. But the Pathfinder strategy is working. They're drawing fire away from the evacuation routes. Riley pointed to the central display. Admiral, we've identified their command ship. It's here, protected by these escort vessels. According to the Council's historical records, the Harvesters never changed their tactics because they've never needed to. Torres nodded grimly. Then let's give them a reason to change. On the neighboring tactical station, Admiral Xen watched the humans with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Never in the history of the Council had anyone attempted to fight the Harvesters directly. Your ships are remarkable, Sen admitted, but the Harvesters outnumber us 5-1. Torres smiled. Numbers aren't everything, Admiral. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way. He turned to his communications officer. Signal all ships. Commence Operation Thunderstrike. The human fleet split into 3 battle groups, each adopting formations the Council tacticians had never seen before. Instead of facing the Harvesters head-on, they attacked from multiple vectors, creating confusion in the machine fleet's perfect formations. They're adapting, warned Sen, pointing to movement in the enemy fleet. Their ships are regrouping. That's what we wanted, Riley explained. They're exposing their command ship to protect their flanks. The human vessels deployed swarms of small, agile fighter craft, a concept unknown to the Council species, who believed space combat was solely for capital ships. The fighters darted between the massive Harvester vessels, targeting specific systems with surgical precision. Now, Torres ordered. The UES Defender and 3 heavy cruisers punched through the weakened section of the Harvester line, accelerating directly toward the command ship. Harvester vessels turned to intercept, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything the machines had encountered in millennia. Boarding teams ready, Admiral, reported the tactical officer. Boarding? Sen asked in shock. You're sending people onto a Harvester ship. Riley nodded. We need to access their central systems. It's the only way to disrupt the entire fleet at once. Sen stared at the human captain. That's suicide. Maybe, Riley acknowledged, checking his combat suit. But sometimes that's what it takes. The Defender closed with the Harvester command ship, absorbing devastating blows that would have destroyed any Council vessel. Its point defense systems cleared a path for the boarding shuttles to launch. Riley led the first team, joined by a small group of Council specialists who knew Harvester technology. Their shuttle rocketed toward the massive enemy vessel, dodging defensive fire. Impact in 10 seconds, called the pilot. Brace. The shuttle crashed through the Harvester ship's outer hull, specialized drills cutting through the metallic skin. Riley's team poured out, weapons ready, facing the mechanical defenders that rushed to repel them. This way, directed Trill, the Council language specialist who had volunteered for the mission. Their control core should be 3 levels down. Fighting through corridors filled with automated defense systems, the combined human council team pushed deeper into the ship. Several fell to enemy fire, but the rest pressed on, driven by the knowledge that millions of lives depended on their success. Finally, they reached the central chamber. While the soldiers held off waves of mechanical defenders, Riley and Trill worked to access the ship's control systems. "It's working," Trill exclaimed as the alien interfaces responded to her commands. They never expected anyone to board them, so their internal defenses are primitive. Throughout the system, harvester ships suddenly stopped firing, their coordinated movements becoming erratic as Riley's team uploaded a virus designed by Dana. "Admiral Torres to all ships," came the transmission. "The command ship is neutralized. Press the attack." The combined human council fleet surged forward, targeting confused harvester vessels that no longer functioned as a unified force. For the first time in thousands of years, the harvesters were in retreat. Hours later, as the last enemy ships fled the system, council species across 3 worlds celebrated their first victory against their ancient tormentors. On the Defender's Bridge, Admirals Torres and Sen watched the tactical display clear of enemy signals. "We would never have survived without you," Sen admitted. Torres shook his head. "We would have failed without your knowledge. This victory belongs to both our peoples." 1 month later, a new beacon was installed at the edge of what was now jointly called Human Council Space. Its message, broadcast in multiple languages, read, "Alert! Human allies nearby. Approach with respect and friendship." The galaxy would never be the same again.